Your Excellency, Sir Florizel Glasspool and Lady Glasspool, President Ronald Reagan and Mrs. Reagan, Right Honorable Hugh Shearer, Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers of Government, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It was but a little more than a year ago that myself and my wife, Mitzi, had the pleasure of being guests of our distinguished guest, President Ronald Reagan and his wife in Washington. It was the occasion of myself and my wife being invited to be the first official guests of the then new government of the United States. And I can recall at that time that we hoped that the day would come very soon when we would have the opportunity of reciprocating the hospitality that we received in Washington. It is our great pleasure today to welcome President Reagan and Mrs. Reagan and their distinguished delegation to Jamaica, and to have the opportunity of reciprocating that hospitality. Our only regret is that their stay here is so short, and that by virtue of the brevity of this stay, they will not have the opportunity to personally experience the revival of spirit, the renewal of hope, and the determination of purpose that now characterizes the new Jamaica. If they had the opportunity by virtue of a longer stay, this personal experience, I am sure they would have felt in their journeys to other areas of the island where they would have had the opportunity to meet with Jamaicans in other walks of life. I find some difficulty in offering a toast to the President of the United States. I would be more comfortable in offering several toasts, and I'm going to adopt the more comfortable line. I offer first of all a toast to him as head of government and state for the extent to which his clarity of conviction and dedication to purpose has enabled a strengthening of U.S.-Jamaica relationships over the past year. I would like you to look at the record. In that past year, we have had, as a part of the strengthened bonds of friendship between our countries, the enactment of legislation to allow for conventions to charge their business expenses against their U.S. tax liabilities. We have had the formation of a U.S. Businessmen's Committee, which has played a critical catalytic role in initiating new investment for Jamaica. We have had the purchase, barter and exchange of bauxite for the strategic mineral stockpiles by the General Services Administration of the United States. Knowing well the rigors of the legislative and congressional procedures in the United States, it is nothing short of very impressive that all this has been accomplished in 1 year. It speaks highly of the level of positive leadership which you, Mr. President, have given to the implementation of your programs, a characteristic for which you are both well known and admired throughout the world. I want to offer next a toast to you as a friend of the Caribbean. I recall the initial discussions which we had in Washington on the occasion of my visit with you as your guest, out of which was born the germ of the idea of the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which has flowered today. I commend and congratulate you on bringing to the stage of formulation in 1 year a most comprehensive program of far-reaching benefits for the entire Caribbean Basin area. It is true that there are still those amongst us who do not consider this comprehensive facility and mechanism to be perfect. And all things have imperfections. But to those who focus on the imperfections, let me say that you, Mr. President, have focused a new light of opportunity on the Caribbean, where previously we have despaired of the darkness. And I would like those who think of the imperfections and of the darkness to remember the words of a former President of the United States, Richard Nixon, who said, "We have endured the long night of the Spirit, but as our eyes catch the dimness of the first dawn, let us not continue to curse the remaining darkness. Let us gather in the light." Finally, Mr. President, I would like to toast you not as a distinguished guest, not as a head of state or government, not as a friend of the Caribbean, but as an American. Journalists in particular often put the question to me about the degree of friendship which exists between Jamaica and the United States. I have tried in many ways to say to them that this friendship is not just a friendship of governments. Governments come and go, but the people remain forever. And in this case, we are dealing with a case of friendship among the people of the two countries. In our case, we have documented that friendship. A distinguished professor of the University of the West Indies has over the years tested by polls the reaction of Jamaican people to various policy questions which involve the relationship of the people of Jamaica to the United States. And I have compiled from those polls of Dr. Carl Stone the responses of the people of Jamaica, which is in this volume, which I have as a surprise presentation to you tonight, Mr. President. And those polls are very revealing. I will cite from a few of them. The question: the US President has promised to help Caribbean countries as part of his government's fight against communism and his support for democracy. Do you think this is a good or bad thing? Good thing, 78%. Bad thing, Mr. President, that in this election you have won hands down in Jamaica by a vote of 3-1 over your nearest competitor. Regardless of what governments think, the people of Jamaica have their own views. And irrespective of the government in power, the people of Jamaica have had these views through the last regime in power and through the present. And they have not changed. And it is a wise government that listens to the voice of the people. And when politicians, by artful contrivance, seek to separate us, they can separate governments if they may, but they can never separate the people. Indeed, I'm not alone of this view. I can go back to the founding of the Republic of the in such a situation that we have occasion for each other. We have the means of assisting each other, and politicians